Do you struggle with writing but need to pass GED RLA? By this point, if you've been at it for a while, you might be getting sick and tired of studying. So in this video, I want to help you move ahead faster because I'm going to break down a real GED essay from a real GED student here, and we're going to go start to finish, and I'm going to show you some tricks and tips along the way that you can use to improve your own writing. Okay, so let's start off by taking a look at your prompt. So the prompt is a pretty typical GED writing prompt, and it says, some cities are beginning to address the environmental concerns associated with paper and plastic bag use, but not everyone agrees about what should be done. In your response, analyze both the editorial and the letter to the editor to determine which position is best supported. Use relevant and specific information from both sources to support your response. So I want to start off by going over a proven formula that anyone can use to raise your score on GED writing. So it starts off with a 5-paragraph essay here. So it starts off with an introductory paragraph, then 3 body paragraphs, then a conclusion, and you also want to use 3 to 7 sentences per paragraph. Now, as far as word count goes here, you want to shoot for between 300 and 500 words. Now, if we look at your writing here, let's look at how you did on this. So in your own writing here, you used 400 words, so you did a great job on that. Now, when we break down your essay, here's how you want to do an introduction to fully maximize your score. So a good introduction should start off with a topic sentence, then it should mention author A's position and the other author's position. Now you can do this in one big sentence or in 2 separate sentences, which is what I recommend. But the most important point is to make your own claim about which position is best supported by the evidence. So now let's take a look here at your introductory paragraph. So your topic sentence starts off by saying, recently, there's a very huge debate about making reusable shopping bags mandatory in Gulftown. So right off the bat, you did a great job with your topic sentence here. It's very clear what you're going to be writing about. And there are several different topic sentence formulas that you can use. One is blank is a controversial issue. There's much debate about blank. And also, author A has a different viewpoint than author B on blank. So your topic sentence here is similar to the second topic sentence formula. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but you did a solid job with structuring your topic sentence here. So we keep going here and you say, the editorial staff at the Gulftown Gazette argues that plastic bags should be banned in Gulftown, while the letter to the editor argues that plastic bags are very necessary for every shop owner in Gulftown. So you did a really great job laying this out here. But here are a few things that I want you to consider. So rather than saying letter to the editor, I would say the author's name here, right? Because a letter to the editor, that's a thing, it's not a person. So when you say the letter to the editor argues this, a letter to the editor is not a real person, it's a thing. So a letter to the editor can't argue, so you'd want to bring the author in here. And I also think that this is going to help make your writing a little bit clearer and easier to understand if you just replace the letter to the editor with the author's name. So let's just clarify the 2 sides here because that's really important. So you have the editorial staff. They want bags to be banned. And then you have Theo Jones. And Theo Jones, it says, is the owner of a gift shop. And he's the one who wrote the letter to the editor. And he's the one who wants the bags banned. So you did a good job with your sentences here of telling me what the 2 different sides are. So good job with that. I just think it would be a little bit simpler if you framed it as the editorial staff versus Jones. So the first time that you mention Mr. Jones, you can just mention that he's a shop owner and you can give both his first and last name, which is Theo Jones. Then after that, you can just simply say Jones. And I'll show you as we go through your piece here why I think it would just be a lot simpler if you said Jones rather than bringing up the letter to the editor every time. And also, instead of just saying the editorial, I would say the editorial staff. So another thing in your introductory paragraph here that I want to mention is where you say should be banned. So should be banned is passive voice, and we want to try to change that so that you're writing in the active voice. So ask the question, plastic bags should be banned by who? And the passage tells us that it's the Gulftown Ordinance Committee. So let's just make a change here. So here's a way that you could consider doing it. So I have your original here, how you did it, and then here's my revision, just something I came up with off the top of my head, just to give you an example of how I think this could be improved. So you could say the editorial staff at the Gulftown Gazette argues that the Gulftown Ordinance Committee should ban plastic bags in Gulftown. So we put that in the active voice. then I say, however, comma, gift shop owner Theo Jones argues in his letter to the editor that plastic bags are very necessary for every shop owner in Gulftown. So just a different take on how you can do it here, so just something to consider. So then this part here that I have highlighted in yellow here, so I admire what you're trying to do here because you're trying to explain a position. However, I just recommend just cut this out of your intro altogether here because your intro should really just be the topic sentence, the two authors' positions, and then the position that you are going to be arguing for throughout the piece. Okay, so looking at your last sentence here, what you did really good here is that you state very clearly which position you think is best supported by the evidence. So that's another strength here, is that you got that right. However, there's a few things that I want to point out here to make this a little bit better here. So first of all, and I'm not going to really focus too much on all the different grammar issues here, but the word whoever, you'd want to say however instead. And here where you have the editorials, I think what you want to say here is the editors, right? But I would just make sure that you're getting this word spelled exactly right. Because here's the thing, spelling doesn't count on the essay, right, on the GED essay. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't get, is that the GED writing essays, it's actually graded by a computer algorithm. It's not graded by a person. And so nobody really knows how exactly the algorithm works because the testing service has never made this information publicly available, or at least they haven't said much about it. So what you can do just to be safe, when it comes to main words that are coming like right out of the passages, things like editorials, I would try to spell that exactly right because it might be looking for certain words that are a direct match from the passages to try to identify how your writing is going and how you're doing with your writing. So when it comes to just any old random word, if you don't spell it right, then that shouldn't penalize your score. But stuff like this, editorials, I would try to get that spelled exactly right here just because that is a big word from the passage. That's a main word from the passage here. And so I know that you're just practicing here. So it's okay when you're practicing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's always good. This is probably just a rough draft. So I understand you're just practicing. I get it here. But just something to think about when you go into the real test. But the main thing that I really want to point out about your introductory paragraph is where you say, because it supports its claim with evidence based on study and relevance. So what you're doing here is really admirable. Again, you're trying to explain something here in your introductory paragraph. So I really admire what you're trying to do here. However, it's not necessary to explain exactly what you mean here. And I think that as we get further into your body paragraphs, you'll see more and more why I wouldn't recommend you including an explanation here for this. So you could just simply say something like this, and this is an example from a perfect essay. This is a perfect score essay that someone wrote, and their thesis statement says, while both sides make an acceptable case, the letter provides a stronger argument. So see how they're just acknowledging both sides and they're just stating which is better. They're not saying the letter provides a stronger argument because, and then explaining why here in the introduction. And you can do that, but for your case here, as we'll see as we look more at your body paragraphs, I wouldn't recommend doing that for you, and I'll explain why as we go along here. So here's just a way that you can do this. This is a little formula here, and you don't want to use this word for word, although you can. You want to kind of adapt it depending on the context of the piece. But the formula you can use is, while both writers make good points, author A provides a better supported argument than author B. So I would just leave it short and simple like that, and I wouldn't try to explain how one position is better supported yet in the last sentence here. As you can see from the essay with the perfect score, that person didn't do that and they got a perfect score. Okay, so moving ahead to your body paragraphs now, and a lot of students do struggle with the body paragraphs, but yours was pretty good for the most part. I just want to review the basics here. So a good body paragraph should start off with a topic sentence, and then you want to explain that topic sentence. So a really good body paragraph is going to explain how one passage is better supported than another, and they're also going to explain how the other passage doesn't do that. And that's your refutation. You're basically looking at points that the author of the weaker passage brings up, and you're explaining why they are weaker or why they're wrong. So the idea here is really you want to try to get the two positions arguing back and forth. So looking at your first body paragraph, you start off by saying, the primary reason why the editorial's argument is better supported than the letter to the editorial's argument is because it points to more facts and reliable sources, while the passage of the letter to the editor uses only his personal experience to back up his argument. So right off the bat here, you're doing pretty good. This is a good topic sentence. I can see clearly what your point is here. So you're going to argue in the body paragraph that the editorial staff's argument is better supported because it has more facts and it has more evidence, whereas the other guy, Mr. Jones, he doesn't do that. So good job. Just a few things I think that would make this a little bit more clear here. So just something to think about. That word because, you could change that to that. So it would just say, the letter to the editorial's argument is that it points, so you could use the word that instead of because here. And then also, just not to beat a dead horse, but where you say letter to the editor, I would just replace that with Jones here. So when you're talking about a passage, again, you're talking about a thing and not a person. So something that's a thing, right, it's not going to be able to do something that a human can do. So you want to bring that human aspect into this, and you want to mention that it's Mr. Jones here. That's what I would do. So something else that you did really good in this body paragraph and throughout your essay is words like it's, you're getting these right. And a lot of students struggle with this. So a lot of people confuse this. When you use it's with an apostrophe, you want to use that in place of it is or it has. And you want to use it's without the apostrophe to show possession and belonging. So you did this right here, so I want to compliment you on that, because a lot of GED test takers, when I see their essays, a lot of them make this mistake, and you didn't make it, so another good point here in your essay. But something in your body paragraph here that I want you to take another look at is this portion here that I've highlighted in green. So when you say in the second paragraph of the first passage, so that's not a complete sentence here, so maybe you were trying to combine it with the sentence after it. I'm not entirely sure, so I would just take a second look at what you're trying to say here. So now let's look at this last sentence here. So I've highlighted this because it seems like both of the examples that you're using are showing how the editorial uses more facts, which that's good, but I think it could be even better if you tried to add at least one example of how Jones in his letter just uses his personal experience. So I would try to bring in a direct example right here in this body paragraph. So that way you're using examples of how the editorial has more facts, and then you want to do that refutation. You want to take something from Mr. Jones's letter, and you want to explain just directly with an example how his is lacking this. And that will really improve your paragraph here. So let's go on now, and in your paragraph, body paragraph 2, you say, another fact from the editorial's argument is that using reusable bags is very beneficial to save money and conserve our environment. So I also highlighted the sentence, these reusable bags cost less than $1. So here's just a thought experiment here. I just want you to really take the lid off your mind and just consider what I'm going to say here. So what I recommend is I would just try to focus this paragraph on just one of these topics, rather than talking about the money and the cost and also talking about the environment here in this same sentence. You're trying to do too many things with this one topic sentence. I would instead focus it on just talking about saving money and then use the rest of that paragraph to develop the saving money theme here. Or just focus the topic sentence on the environment and then explore the topic of the environment in the rest of the paragraph here, right? So this is just how you could do it. So you could consider developing this paragraph just around the idea of cost. And so you could mention that Jones says that shop owners can't afford to pay for reusable bags, which is a point from Jones's letter, right? So then you could counter that by refuting Jones and bringing up the fact that reusable bags only cost $1 according to the editorial staff. So another thing in your body paragraph that I want to draw your attention to is where you have washable, comma, lightweight, comma, and so I've just highlighted this, and again, I know that you're just practicing here, so I'm not being too harsh on you for this because it's just practice here, we get it, but at the same time, you really want to be careful to put spaces after your punctuation as you type. And I noticed a couple times here in your writing you did this, and so I'm just drawing attention to it here because it really stands out here. But the reason that I recommend making sure that after your commas and after your periods you put spaces is because, again, remember, there's a computer-based grading system, a computer algorithm that's grading your score here, and the GED testing service, they've never come out and said how it works here, but just to be on the safe side, just to be very, very safe and not take any chances, I would make sure that you've got a space after your punctuation because you don't want it to look at that and think that that's all one word. Now, again, that's just might be just a speculation on my part because the testing service has never said whether or not that's how the algorithm grades. So moving on to your third body paragraph here. So again, you could make this paragraph, you start off by talking about 100 billion disposable plastic bags every year. Okay, that's a good point. And then you go on to say, many Americans are concerned about their environment in the future. So Then you go on and you proceed to talk about the bacteria example here. So my thought on this here is that you should either just pick one topic here again. So write it about the environment or write it about the bacteria issue, because in the passage it talks about the bacteria issue as being a health concern. Again, I just focus on one issue per paragraph and then just go deeper on that topic, and ideally you will be trying to find cases in which the authors directly disagree on something, and then you can use those topics to develop your body paragraphs. In your conclusion here, you say the author's argument shows that there is more chance to reduce environmental pollution and save money by using reusable shopping bags. So another thing that you did really well in your conclusion is you started off with "in conclusion," which that's a transitional phrase. So good job there. Transition words and phrases are great to put throughout your piece here. And you did a pretty good job of that throughout your writing here. Like, for example, in your body paragraph, you start off with the word "also," which is a transitional word. So that's another thing that is going to help boost your score, are these transitional words and phrases. And for the most part, you did a good job with that here, especially this "in conclusion" comma. That's the best way to start off your conclusion, and that's a time-tested and proven way to maximize your score on the conclusion. So I've highlighted this here because in your conclusion, you're bringing up three ideas here. So you're talking about the editorial argument and how it uses more facts, and which is good. And then you're also bringing up these two other points, which you're talking about the environment and you're talking about saving money. So that was why my intuition about your writing here, and this is just my insight that I'm getting here, is that you could just make three main points. So the first body paragraph focused on the facts, the second body paragraph focused on the money saving issue, the third body paragraph focused on reducing the environment. And hey, there's 1,000 different directions you could take this in, but just from reading your essay here, that's kind of my insight about a direction that you could take this in that I think would really help your score here. So then your last sentence says, for example, he said if they ban the plastic bags, then tourists could be bored to bring their own bags when they come to enjoy themselves at the beach. So the issue here with this last sentence here in your conclusion is that you're bringing up something new in your conclusion. And whenever people bring up new things in their conclusions, that's usually a sign that maybe that could go in a body paragraph instead. Because the idea is that in your body paragraphs, you want to develop your ideas and your arguments and your explanations. And then if you do your body paragraphs effectively, by the time you get down to your conclusion, you shouldn't have any new ideas. So I was thinking that you could take that idea from your conclusion here, where it says, for example, blah, blah, blah. I think that that would be a better fit if you went back up to your first paragraph here, right? And remember how in your first body paragraph, remember how I was saying that at the end of it, it'd be good if you gave an example of how the other guy, Mr. Jones, is just using his personal opinion rather than facts. So I think that you could take that out of your conclusion, and I would recommend putting that in your body paragraph instead. So let's look at the highlights here. So the first highlight is that you shared your writing. So I'm really grateful and I'm really thankful that you shared your writing here, because it takes guts to do something like that. To put your writing out here publicly, whether it's anonymous or not, it still takes a lot of guts to do that, and a lot of people don't want to do that, right? So you put your writing out there, so that takes a lot of guts, and for that you've earned my respect and my admiration for being willing to do that. And so also I'm really grateful that you shared this, because it's a great thing to do, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to benefit from this as well. So rather than just keeping this to yourself and keeping this feedback between me and you, you're willing to share this for other people so that they can benefit too. So I really commend you for that, and I'm really grateful that you did that. So also, you structured your writing really well throughout this piece. You followed the 5-paragraph essay format, and your paragraphs, everything was structured really well. There weren't really any structural issues that really stuck out to me here. Also, there were very few grammatical mistakes, and relative to other essays that I've looked at, you had very few grammatical mistakes here, so good job with that. Another thing that you did well here in the first paragraph is that you matched the topic sentence to the thesis statement, and some people don't get that right for some reason, so you did that. You did that well, so good job there. And also, you didn't copy directly from the passage, because that's an issue that some people struggle with here. But just know that you put things in your own words well, but you could also use quotes. So I think that would be something that you could play around with here. And so, also, you had great ideas throughout this. In fact, you had really great ideas throughout this piece. You had multiple ideas that were really good here. So the main thing that I would recommend for you to consider is taking some of those great ideas and actually trying to have less of them, right? So I would just pick 3 main reasons why you think one position is stronger, and I would rate each body paragraph around 1 reason here. So remember how I showed you that example of a perfect essay and I showed you yours side by side? So right here when you say, because it supports its claim with evidence based on study and relevance. So what I would do here is, if you say it supports its claims with evidence based on the study and relevance, then that kind of boxes you in and marries you to just talking about facts and evidence throughout the whole piece here, right? Whereas I think it would be better if you just made one paragraph about that and then you made the other paragraphs about different topics here. So I would just clip this off here or mention 3 reasons. So you could say the editorial's argument is the better of the two because it supports its claims with better evidence and facts, and it makes more logical points about cost saving, and it discusses how the environment would benefit too, or something like that. That's just something I just kind of freestyled off the top of my head there. But I would either just clip it off here and just state which position is better and then just clip it off altogether like this person did in the perfect essay, or make sure that you mention all 3 big ideas. So congratulations for making it the whole way through this video. The next step for you watching this at home would be to go check out that video on GED Essay Perfect Score. I think that's really going to help you, and I think it complements really well some of the ideas that we're talking about here in this essay. So everybody that watched this video, thank you so much for watching, and good luck on your test prep.